Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Out of the Park Baseball 26 series, Rescue the Rockies. And before we get this very special episode underway, I want to give a quick programming note to our loyal viewers. It's the evening of Friday, July 25th, as I am working on this episode, and hopefully we'll be posting it in a couple of hours later this evening, depending on how long it takes me to get through whatever we're going to end up playing here. Probably will have multiple episodes coming out this Saturday and Sunday, the 26th and 27th of July, but then you're unlikely to hear from me for the rest of the week as I will be offline. I know we've got a lot of very loyal viewers who like to watch all of our episodes, and that is, as always, very appreciated. So just a heads up that if you want to have some old school sports Colorado Rockies action over the week of July 28th, probably need to save some of the hopefully several episodes that we'll be putting out tonight and Saturday into Sunday. I will try to put out some extra episodes, hopefully can do at least a couple a day on Saturday and Sunday, so there will be a few of them out there for those of you who are more inclined to savor them a little more and spend a little more time on them and perhaps let them season a bit before you watch them. My hope is that the last episode I put out before I am offline for a while will be one where I'm asking the Worldwide Scouting Department for some help to give anyone who watches that episode several days to hopefully share feedback with us. So as we sit here on January 15th, I'm thinking that potentially an episode towards the middle of this 2032 season, perhaps involving the first-year player draft and or our potential choices in the trade market as the trade deadline approaches, might be a good stopping point. But who knows? If I get really motivated over the next 48 hours, maybe we'll be all the way through the season by the time I need to take a few days off. But wanted to share that up front and start by thanking everyone who has shared feedback on our last couple episodes. The focus of this episode is going to be on the international amateur free agent signing period. A lot of great feedback, as always, from the Worldwide Scouting Department that we'll be talking about as we go through the different options. The general sentiment, which I agree with, is that this is a pretty uninspiring and unimpressive class, and the top-end talent doesn't seem quite as top-end as previous years, or perhaps has some pretty serious personality quirks. Also got several suggestions that it may be a good year to consider spreading the money around. I always think about doing that and rarely execute on it. Also got the suggestion to maybe try to trade off some of that money for some help in the bullpen or some other guys who could help us. Would love it if I'm able to execute on something like that. It seems like when I am trying to trade for IAFA money, it is valued incredibly highly by the AI general managers. And when I am trying to trade that IAFA money away, they value it like dirt. But I will do my best to overcome that if I decide that trading away some of that money is the direction to go. As far as what we've done over the course of regular free agency, in the last episode, spent $300 million potentially, but we got Noah Schultz, in my mind, the best player on the market. The left-hander, signed him to a 6-year deal at $45 million a year with a player opt-out midway through and then team options for the final 2 seasons with a no-trade clause. Not the structure of a contract I would typically like to hand out, but he was asking for 10 years and over $500 million. with an opt-out midway through that contract and player options at the end of it in addition to the no-trade clause. So I figured we would try to offer him as much as I thought we possibly could and just get an answer from him hopefully relatively quickly. I did think that that answer was ultimately going to be, I've got a bunch of longer, higher offers on the board, and or I'm not really interested in playing in Colorado. So it definitely was shocking to me when we locked up the best player on the market very early in free agency back over a month ago at this point already on December 8th. And just one of those quirks of the game. Came in with our best offer. We were the defending World Series champs. Maybe that helped. And let's go try to get Noah Schultz, who's got 3 All-Star appearances and 2 Cy Young Awards, including the one that was given out a month and a half ago, to his credit. Let's try to go and get him a World Series title. We also brought Colt Keith on board to potentially be a bridge third baseman for us until former first-round draft pick Derby Mahez is hopefully ready to take over that position. Could be the end of this year, could be more than a year or two away. Keith, with his defensive ratings, is probably a third baseman for us, but Mahez has developed better than hoped. So there's also potential that maybe Mahez becomes a second baseman for us down the line, in which case maybe we keep Colt Keith around a little longer than anticipated. And obviously it's going to depend on Keith's performance relative to his $10 million price tag and also Mahez's development. Still some huge free agents on the market. Jordan Lawler still looking for over $20 million. Logan Webb looking for close to $40 million. Logan Gilbert, 33. Zach Gallen at the age of 36, I guess, is a relative bargain, looking for $24 million. Aaron Judge still looking for over $50 million after a monster year at the age of 39 when he led the league with 53 homers and 145 ribbies. And the outstanding reliever Justin Martinez is now demanding almost Noah Schultz money. As great as Martinez is, with that 20 stamina, he's probably a guy that's going to struggle to pitch more than 80 innings a year. You can see he's basically been an inning guy at best the last couple seasons in Arizona and St. Louis. And if he ends up signing for anywhere near the $45 million a year that we got a top flight starting pitcher for, we'll start perhaps looking at the $270 million that we're going to potentially end up paying Mr. Schultz if he opts into all of his years with us as a potential bargain. But enough talk about what we've done in Major League free agency. As I noted earlier, the focus is going to be our decisions around international amateur free agency right now. And as I noted, a lot of feedback from the worldwide scouting department. 3 pitchers that we spent more time on: Manuel Martinez, Mike Alvarez, and Bobby Bernal. Bobby Bernal is a very strong recommendation from the worldwide scouting department. Dustin Durbin, Peter Hooper, Undercover Boomer, Raymond Effinger, and Jay Devin all have Bernal at or near the top of their recommendation lists. Interestingly, YME943 is very negative on Bernal, and he is of the camp to spread the money around this year. The reason to like him is that we think his stuff, his movement, and his control could all be borderline exceptional, and he could have a potentially incredible 3-pitch arsenal. Really good stamina, outstanding at holding on runners. I think he can reach the mid to high 90s with his velocity. Medium development risk, very high scouting accuracy. The lefty looks like a big-time pitcher if he hits. The reason not to like him, noted by YME943 and some others, is the low work ethic. He also has low leadership and low loyalty, is high in terms of his adaptability, but 17-year-old with low work ethic who's going to need a lot of really good years of development in the minors to reach his full potential. And certainly that low work ethic could end up being a significant headwind that Bobby J.C. Bernal will need to face in terms of his development. With a $3.2 million price tag, he's also a guy who very well might go and end up going for the maximum. This is a year where our Rockies have $5.23 million to spend, but there are teams out there with $5.7 million that can outbid us on Bernal or anyone else in the pool. Turning to the position players, there were 5 position players who received first place votes from members of the Worldwide Scouting Department. The most bargain-oriented is the left fielder Armando Gallegos, looking for $1.9 million. He was Sir Valerian's choice. Really good personality with high loyalty and work ethic, low financial ambition. Looks like a potentially outstanding contact hitter. The gap power, the eye, the speed, and the current defensive skills are all kind of in the meh range, but still a guy who we think could be an above-average major leaguer if he reaches his full potential, with a good personality and the possibility of being an outstanding left-handed contact hitter. Another player who received the support of one member of the Worldwide Scouting Department, number 1 on the list, was center fielder Tony Cirillo. Peter Hooper's choice among the position players, somewhat more well-balanced. We think he can be average to above average in all of the batting ratings, decent outfield range, and slightly above average speed with good base stealing instincts, slightly below average base running instincts, but a relatively clean prospect, medium development risk for Cirillo as well. Another 16-year-old who could become an interesting player. He's looking for $2.8 million. The final player who got one first place vote, Bill Lopez, second baseman, was the choice of third-degree Top Gun. Like the high leadership and adaptability, the below-average intelligence is not perfect. Average base runner, decent potential defensively, although the arm is very weak. A more interesting hitter than perhaps the likes of Gallegos, with a little more versatility in addition to potentially great contact. Also has potentially outstanding gap power, and he is durable as well. The last 2 position players that we're going to talk about were definitely the 2 most popular. The second choice among position players of the Worldwide Scouting Department is Jose Deuce Bahena. Almost scientific history clips in NS1 CLRK all had Deuce Bahena at the top of their list. A lot to like about him: high work ethic, baseball IQ, low financial ambition, real nice arm in the outfield, and potential for world-class home run power and eye. But there are certainly some concerns about him too. I think the contact will likely be a little below average. He's going to strike out a ton, and he's got pretty poor speed and is not a very good bunter. But the 17-year-old player out of Colombia is a left-handed hitter with 50 home run potential and 100-plus walk potential, is certainly someone who merits consideration, even if that contact profile is not typically one that I'd be all that attracted to. But the most popular player with the Worldwide Scouting Department among the position players is shortstop Johnny Castillo, DLL first base 14, Raymond Effinger, Kyle B., Avery Shaham, and Not My Four-Ply all eventually settled on Johnny Castillo, although, as I mentioned, fair number of members of the Worldwide Scouting Department also felt like this is not a year to chase somebody and perhaps spread the money around a bit more. Castillo, like the high work ethic and baseball IQ, pretty interesting bat. The speed is not great, and the glove for an infielder is not great today. With that high work ethic and baseball IQ, and the fact that he's only 17 years old, though, the suggestion was made you get him into the development lab a few times defensively. If you've got some good dice rolls and he becomes a good defensive player with that potential bat, all of a sudden you might have something here with Johnny Castillo. And although he's looking for $3 million, which is as much as anybody we talked about. Lopez also at $3 million, and Bahena at $2.4 million. Ultimately, the shortstop, Johnny Castillo, and the pitcher, Bobby Bernal, were not... well, in the case of Bernal, it was unanimous because there were no other pitchers who got votes, but they were kind of the overwhelmingly most popular pitcher for us to go after in the case of Bernal. And in the case of hitters, Castillo ended up with much more support than anybody else from the worldwide scouting department. And while I wouldn't mind if it's a year where we add some quantity, and I also wouldn't mind if we can perhaps trade away some cash in trade, particularly if there's an interesting bullpen arm that we can pick up, and IAFA money helps us get there. I still ultimately tend to be attracted to players with higher ceilings, at least in the initial round of free agency. I trust our scouts overall, and most times I'd prefer to come out of a IAFA period with one guy with 70 or 75 potential rather than, 2 or 3 guys with 50 to 55 potential, or 5 or 6 guys with 45 to 50 potential. But there's certainly different ways to play the game. Some cheaper guys who, if we go for a volume approach, which could involve someone like Gallegos, center fielder Diego Medina is an interesting guy to consider, and the shortstop Fernando Olivares, like some personality traits, a great contact hitter who's not really good at anything else, but pretty good range, though he does have extreme development risk. This is a year where it seems like we could layer in several players with reasonably high ceilings. That being said, my initial approach is going to still be to try to sign one guy that I really like, and in this case, the low work ethic of the pitcher, Bobby Bernal, really bothers me, although he was, as I noted, by far the most popular pitcher, and got 5 first place votes, the exact same number of first place votes that Johnny Castillo got. But we're going to go with an offer to Castillo here. I like the personality. I really like the potential bat, although he's a guy who's 17 and a half years old with those ratings, as has been noted. He's got some work to do. But we've got a pretty big pretty big investment in player development, and we've got great coaches throughout our organization. I think that if there's any franchise that kind of can hopefully put themselves in the best position to develop these players and maximize their chances of success, it's probably the Rockies at this point. And as I noted, with some defensive luck in the development lab, he could become a very interesting player. I don't know that I'm going to bid on him a second time if he doesn't accept this offer, but he's looking for $3 million. We're going to try to come in strong with a $3.75 million offer, so that's 25% more than his demand. Get that offer out to him quickly, and if we can get him signed, we'd still have almost $1.5 million to potentially look at some other players with. If we don't get him signed, I could see Bahena, Cirillo, or Gallegos perhaps being the next direction that we go. And we've simmed ahead a couple of days. Castillo says he favors our offer, but we've certainly heard that from young players before and not ended up signing them. And it looks like similar to what happened with Noah Schultz, our aggressive approach to Johnny Castillo ended up working out. Certainly was viewed as one of the top prospects in the pool. I think depending on how the negotiations went, if it took some more time, he's a guy who certainly could have ended up going for $4.5, $5.5+ million. So pretty pleased that we got him locked up for $3.75 million. And now we've got enough money to maybe quickly pivot to some other interesting players. And it doesn't seem like there's any realistic trade options out there for us where adding in some of our IAFA money is going to mean that we have to give up substantively less valuable players or prospects to get a deal done. So probably going to look to just continue spending the money. I think with $1.48 million left, Medina and Olivares are both interesting to me at their price points. Certainly not perfect prospects, but Medina in particular could be an interesting bat, like the high work ethic. Could be a useful left-handed hitting outfielder down the line. Not great defensively, but as we talked about with Castillo, there's opportunities to work on that in the development lab. Does have extreme development risk. The IAFA not as high on him as our scout is, but I tend to trust our scout. Says he's looking for $440,000. Guessing he doesn't have too much in the way of interest at this point. So we're going to offer him $400,000 just to get the discussion going. Although I don't love Olivares, the contact is incredible potentially, but the rest of his batting profile is not great. I do like that contact. I do like that infield range. Do like the personality. He's another guy who the OSA really has a poor rating on at this point, but only low scouting accuracy, and I'll trust our scout on this one. But given that there's such limited interest in him, we're going to go even cheaper than we did with the outfielder, offer him $375,000, get an offer out to him. I'm going to spend a little more time looking at some other players, but this wouldn't potentially be a bad year for us to keep some money in reserve and maybe pick up some bargains a few months from now. And there's one other player we're going to make an offer to now. Left-handed reliever Ruben Ortiz. We think that his stuff could be absolutely filthy, only kind of average-ish in terms of the movement and control. Not a ton of stamina, but really good at holding on runners. Great personality traits with the high adaptability, work ethic, and baseball IQ. Think he can reach the mid to high 90s in terms of his velocity. The left-hander is another guy who's not as highly regarded by the OSA, so he might not be getting a ton of attention, and he's only requesting $190,000 right now. We're not even going to offer him that amount, but we're going to put an offer of $150,000 out to him to try to sign with us. So could end up being an interesting year in the IAFA pool for us. Obviously, we've gotten Castillo signed, who will certainly be the prize of this class, but trying to, at this point, add a center fielder, the reliever, and the shortstop Olivares to the list. And you can see that although we don't have emails on it yet, Medina and Ortiz favor our offers, and we're waiting to hear from the shortstop Olivares. And the shortstop Olivares yesterday told us he liked our offer. Today he told us he's got a better offer from New York. Looks like there's other teams out there looking at him. Says he's looking for $600,000 right now. He's an interesting player, but We've got a couple of other offers out there. I'd like to know more about whether we get the reliever in the outfielder before perhaps going back to Mr. Olivares. And pretty good news, the center fielder Diego Medina did sign with us, and the relief pitcher Ruben Ortiz did as well. So that puts us in a situation where in the relatively early going, it's only January 25th, we've still got 2 days until the preseason begins. And we've now signed 3 players, a relief pitcher, an outfielder, and of course, we hope, big-time prospect as far as our infielders. Couple of guys ended up going for the max. The outfielder Jose Bahena went for $5.7 million to the White Sox, so more than we could ever reach. And then first baseman Ozzie Laciosi, who is a very interesting player, although we didn't like his personality, also went for the full $5.7 million. You can see the Diamondbacks doing a much more measured approach, bringing a bunch of younger players or less expensive players. They're all young players who our scout thinks doesn't have particularly high ceilings into their organization with the volume approach. Kind of like what we've done. 3 players signed already and still have $930,000 left to potentially invest. Obviously that means that the big time pitchers that we talked about at the start of the episode aren't available, or the top hitting prospects. Does also look like Olivares is still out there. We're going to explore some other options before potentially pivoting back to him, but we do have the money to raise an offer to him, although right now he says he's looking for $1.06 million. So seems like the bidding on Mr. Olivares is getting a little more robust than we had perhaps anticipated. And I think we're moving off of Mr. Olivares, but we have made a couple of other offers. Willie Gamboa, 16-year-old starting pitching prospect. Not a particularly impressive fastball, but we think the curve, the change in the splitter could all become interesting pitches. Does have really good stamina. Weird profile. Is probably going to give up a fair amount of home runs, but is a flyer on a left-hander who certainly has a profile that indicates he could be a starter as far as his pitching repertoire and his stamina. $150,000 in a year where we're going for a little bit of breath doesn't scare me that much. And another shortstop moving on from Olivares, but we made a $600,000 offer to Izzy Cardoza. Pretty interesting defensive player, potentially with that 65 range, and nice contact, gap power, and speed combination, although the power is bad and the eye is not all that good either. But we'll see if we can maybe get another player or two signed from this IAFA class. And unfortunately, both Cardoza, the shortstop, and Gamboa, the starting pitcher, came back to us and said that they're looking for more money. So we're going to have to revisit our IAFA approach. Preseason does begin today, and for the second straight year, Charlie Montfort has boosted our budget at the start of the preseason, moved us from $236 million to $250 million. So that definitely gives us some more options in free agency. You can see there's still some interesting pitchers out there. Logan Gilbert and Jacob deGrom among starters. A little bit too expensive for us, but Ricky Tiedemann, who we had talked about a couple of episodes ago, got some viewers who were fans of him, some not so much, but he is still out there. Don't know that we want to spend $12.3 million a year on him, but we are in a situation right now where we can perhaps add another player or two who can help us as free agents, hopefully on short contracts. Taking a look at the batters who are available, Aaron Judge still out there looking for still crazy money. Jordan Lawler's demands keep going up, even though he's lingering on the market. Perhaps there is a bidding war for him, but might be able to bring on a player who can help us this year. Certainly some big veteran names with the likes of Cody Bellinger and Alex Bregman on the market, as well as Carlos Correa. Definitely not guys who are in the prime of their careers anymore, but probably guys who could help us if the price is right. And the other nice thing is that to be able to fit Keith on after we picked up Schultz, we did cut back just a bit on our player development budget and a little more materially on our scouting budget. And now we can both get those up to the levels that they were at a year ago. And honestly, might even end up spending a bit more on scouting when all is said and done. But right now, maintain some financial flexibility, keep thinking about the IAFA pool, and see if perhaps over the next month or two, or the next month or so until we get to the start of spring training, maybe there's another player or two out there on the free agent market that'll be able to help us. And we haven't made any major league offers to any of the free agents, but you can see some familiar names: Cody Bellinger, MJ Melendez, Brian Rocchio, that we are trying to bring on board, among others. Moved on, at least for the time being, from Gamboa, Cardoza, and Olivares. Tomas Lopez was asking for $1.2 million, right-handed reliever. Looks like he could have a pretty interesting profile. Got a lot of work to do to get there, but he does have high work ethic. Don't love that he's horrible at holding on runners, and he's a potential right-handed reliever, but can probably get over that. He was looking for $1.2 million. He was willing to at least consider an offer of $900,000 from us, which would leave us with only $30,000 left. So probably not going to have much left if we sign him that will be meaningful enough to work on any additional players, but still think we're headed towards a potentially interesting 3+ person class for us. For those of you who are wondering, the big-time pitcher Bobby Burnell went for $5.23 million to the Nationals, so the exact amount that we had to spend, we could have likely picked Bernal up if we had decided to go with the pitcher rather than the shortstop Johnny Castillo. And we did get the potential reliever Tomas Lopez signed for the $900,000 offer that we made. So guy who we think has pretty average major league potential. The OSA a little bit lower on him. Certainly, as you would expect for a 17-year-old, a lot of work to get to the point where he could be a productive player for us. We're down to, as I noted, just $30,000 left to spend. But with the relievers Lopez and Ortiz, the center fielder Medina, and then the hopeful prize of the class being the infielder Castillo, feel like we got a pretty high-end guy, but still with 4 guys signed, we're able to get a little bit of quantity and diversification in the class as well. And some big names remain on the free agent market. Carlos Correa, Alex Bregman, and Aaron Judge among them. Sadly for Judge, after that monster season a year ago, the soon-to-be 40-year-old claiming he wants $64 million for next year at this point, and wants it over 3 years as well. Claims that the Angels have made him a big-time offer. We'll have to see what their finances actually look like. It does look like they potentially have some money available, and they might have a massive amount of money available if a big offer to Judge is actually factored into that budget space that they have. So not inconceivable that he isn't bluffing, obviously, with the price tag he's looking for and the money that we have available. No path at all to potentially bringing on the Judge onto our team, but have picked up some interesting minor league free agents, and with the way that the back end of our pitching bullpen is looking, And with the fact that there's still definitely a question who our sixth infielder might be next year, there's certainly potential for some of these minor league free agents that we've signed to potentially make the 26-man roster. Is kind of weird that almost a decade into this playthrough with big investments in scouting in recent years that Josh Young, somehow we've got low scouting accuracy on a guy who has played in the major leagues in a team in our division for the past couple years. Kind of a strange quirk of the game that for whatever reason we don't seem to know too much about Josh. And although we couldn't necessarily find the sixth-ish infielder we were looking for on the free agent market, with the extra money we had, I think we've found one on the trade market. Made a trade for the veteran Gavin Lux. We'll talk very shortly about what we ended up giving up for him. Said there was a positive reaction to the signing of him, but fan interest did not move, not surprisingly. But think that Lux could be an interesting utility infielder for us. He's making $12.7 million, but we did get the Diamondbacks to retain 60% of his contract for this final season. Good influence in the clubhouse with high leadership, adaptability, and work ethic. A guy who can play multiple infield positions capably, although he's certainly not a gold glove type. The bat, not particularly exciting at this point. He's been a league average-ish player offensively for the last several years. He's also 34 years old, so not expecting a ton from him offensively. But he gives us a guy who's normal in terms of his injury proneness, who can certainly play second and third. We could throw him at shortstop in a pinch. He probably isn't going to be thrilled that we envision him as a utility infielder rather than an everyday starter, which he's been for much of his career. But he does give us a relatively proven left-handed hitting major league option who's been a kind of league average offensive player over the course of his career, putting up about a 2 WAR a season, who we can get as a rental to hopefully bolster our team a little bit. Didn't have to give up a ton for him. Kyron Paris, 4A player who was in our organization. The minor league pitcher Luke Jewett, who's kind of been a guy who's been on the borderline of making our roster a couple times over the past few years, and has always been a guy who we've thought about for a September call-up, but he's never actually played in the majors for us. And at the age of 29, with the depth that we have in our pitching staff at this point, unlikely that he ever will. And we did also send them the last $30,000 in an international amateur bonus pool room that we had for us. Kind of agree with what the source in our locker room and clubhouse said. Not the biggest deal out there, but it should help out both clubs, and think that Lux could certainly be a interesting utility infielder for us this year. And some big deals in these final days before spring training make me feel even better about the contracts we signed Keith and Schultz to. Lawler with $151+ million over 6 years from the Dodgers. Wilyer Abreu, $91 million over 4 years from the Phillies. Jace Barofin, 4 years over $100 million from the Mariners. And then the one that's painful to see, it looks like Aaron Judge, the turncoat, is going to finish up his major league career with the Boston Red Sox. $62 million a year for 3 years, 2 years guaranteed, and then a vesting option for his age 42 season. But Judge potentially chasing after some of the all-time greats in the game on the home run list in the late stages of his career. in Fenway Park in Boston. You would have to think that that right-handed bat and the Green Monster could be a very interesting combination for the veteran, but a little disconcerting to see Judge going from the pinstripes into a Red Sox uniform. And we've simmed ahead to the start of spring training, which is where we will finish off this episode. Next time around, we'll find out exactly what happened in the development lab. Looking like we can potentially get 5 successful results, so things have definitely improved. Looks like the young outfielder Ted Miller and the young infielder Dervy Mahez, who, as we've talked about, is likely our third baseman of the future, both excelling with their programs, although Mahez is definitely very borderline between excelling and on track. Kevin Roberts Jr. with bat speed, Justin Gibson with control, and perhaps critically important, Leo Martinez with strength and conditioning all look on track at this point. 3 potentially unsuccessful programs, the young catcher Mike Girard, the young pitcher Jose Ramirez, and then Isaiah Shader not excelling in their programs, although if we get incredibly lucky dice rolls, it looks like Ramirez could end up with a successful result as well. But given that when we checked in midway through, it looked like we were only going to have 3 successful programs, the prospect to get through the long programs in the lab with 5 successful programs would be a very welcome development, particularly given the players who are going to have them. Mahez and Miller, 2 of the top prospects in our organization. Roberts and Martinez, 2 big-time young players who we've already locked up to long contracts. And Martinez, of course, had a lot of injury issues last year. And then Justin Gibson, who has been a very effective reliever for us the first couple years of his major league career. So we'll find out the results next time around, but a busy episode. Like the way the IAFA class turned out, like the trade for Gavin Lux. I think we've added some other depth through the organization with some minor league contracts. And with that bump in our budget, we've got a little bit of money to spend as this season moves along. And we've also got big investments in scouting and player development. So things seem to be coming together pretty well for our Rockies as we get closer to beginning a season and trying to see if we can defend our World Series championship. And we'll find out how the development lab goes, how spring training goes, and who's going to be on the 26-man roster for this upcoming 2032 season in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.